Chapter 1. A Taker, State of Mind. Verse 1. Music is power, so I'll have to use it. It's crazy how quick the waist bow when you start a movement. Music is power, so I'll have to use it. It's crazy how quick the waist bow when you start a movement. In this verse, the waste refers to people that waste their time, people that waste their life, people that waste their time so much that they have developed a special ability to waste your time. That's waste. That person is a waste. What is the result of someone being waste? How do you think they see someone that becomes successful? They hate. They hate. It is in them to hate. So the second they see someone that came from the same place, that went through the same things, and they have elevated, they have put in the necessary work, and they have elevated, the waste hate. Now, what happens when this person successfully rises above their scenario and gain power? What happens when the power of this person influences those that were in their old surroundings? They start a movement. That person of power has started a movement along with the people that he influenced. People that waste, people that are wasters. There are professionals at this, by the way. They troll you to death. Literally. There are people that have committed suicide because they have been trolled to death. Some call it cyberbullying. I call it waste management. So when a hater, when a troll sees their surroundings being changed because of someone that has started a movement, when this hater sees the people around them joining this movement, what do? They bow. Music is power, so I'll have to use it. It's crazy how quick the waist bow when you start a movement. Verse 2. This is the blueprint on how one can do it. Hide your visions, but make people a part of it that understood what your moves meant. This is the blueprint on how one can do it. Hide your visions, but make people a part of it that understood what your moves meant. It saddens me to know how many people don't know that you have to hide your visions. The experts are only experts because other experts have used past experts to verify their new expertise. Think about that. You have layers of experts saying that if visions are a specific thing and dreams are a specific thing, and they have counsel with each other, people that have the same amount of knowledge. If you have a room of people with the same amount of knowledge that agree on a thing, they are not agreeing on that thing based on their knowledge. They're agreeing on that thing based on their emotions. So we believe that visions are a specific thing because experts felt a specific way about it. They put it in the dictionaries. They put it in the seminars. They put it in their speeches. The gurus use it. They don't live by it, but they use it. Get us to buy their books because of it. No, you hide your visions. There was a man by the name of Joseph. He was born long before Jesus came. But much of his life prophesied the coming of Jesus. When Joseph was young, he had a vision from God. It was called a dream. His brothers were already jealous of him. There are people around us that are already jealous of us. They're already haters. There's some people that we don't know are haters yet. They just haven't seen us become as successful as it would require for them to become a hater. I hope you're listening. Joseph told his brothers, and they sold him for a small amount of money, sold their little brother. Why? They were haters. And when you tell your full vision, especially if your vision is from God, people can't handle that. But why is it called a vision? Why is it called a dream? Why is it called a vision? Because it's only meant for you to see. How does this vision come to pass? When you make people a part of it that understood what your past moves meant. And you hide your vision from them. You don't tell them what your visions are. Don't be manipulative. Don't hold anger towards these people. They don't know that they're haters. As a matter of fact, you may not know that you're a hater. So you can't judge them for that. We don't know. What secures peace is protecting your visions, but make people a part of it that understood why you made certain moves in the past. Those are people that will help you to get where you're going. This is the blueprint on how one can do it. Hide your visions, but make people a part of it that understood what your moves meant. Verse 3. The mind is nothing to play with. With a child's temper, one could end up in a pen with no one to play with. The mind is nothing to play with. With a child's temper, one could end up in a pen with no one to play with. The mind is the database of all thoughts, all ideas, all suggestions. It is the place where knowledge is stored, and knowledge is retained by someone seeing, smelling, tasting, feeling, or hearing a thing. Whatever anyone experiences through those 5 things ends up in the mind. That makes the mind very powerful. That means that if someone perfected this art, the art of learning, they can use something for or against anyone just by simply being exposed to it. So imagine a grown man that does not control what he allows himself to be exposed to. Yeah, of course, there are some things that are inevitable based on our surroundings. But if you have surroundings that have traumatic symptoms to it, then it is your job to go home and strengthen yourself. Expose yourself to things that will cancel out that trauma. That's your job. And it is our job to perfect our temper. Because if someone learns something and they have the temper of a child, that's jail. That's jail time. The majority of people in the pen, in jail, They are in there because regardless of how smart they were, they had the temper of a child. The mind is nothing to play with. With a child's temper, one could end up in a pen with no one to play with. Verse 4. There are many ways to make it. The lion lives, take it, while the cubs live, contemplate it. There are many ways to make it. The lion lives, take it, while the cubs live, contemplate it. It is important for someone to pay attention to what kind of mentality they have. It's important for someone to understand what kind of lifestyle they live, to recollect based on their actions what they think about themselves. The lion lives, take it. He lives a life of taking it. This is the best way to make it. Why is the lion so successful at taking? Why is the lion's success rate so high when the elephant can take out a lion with one piercing of one tusk, one simple stump? Because this lion, for his whole life, have seen others, have seen his very own father, his very own mother, take down elephants. As a cub watching this, you have to imagine the rate that this cub's inspiration grew the first time he's seen an elephant being taken down by his very own father, by his very own mother. You have to understand how fast his level of expectation for himself grew. Yes, he's small. Yes, he knows that he can't do much. But the next time he sees an elephant, he can't help but to contemplate it. He lived his whole childhood contemplating this very thing. How can we use this in our own lives? We will cover that. We will cover that. There are many ways to make it. The lion lives, take it, while the cubs live, contemplate it. Verse 5. So this means failure to a fatherless home. Not so. Alexander built an empire off of Animal Planet alone. So this means failure to a fatherless home. Not so. Alexander built an empire off of Animal Planet alone. Now, as comical as this may seem, especially to the history buffs out there, this is very important. Alexander the Great was the son of Philip II, king of a Greek city-state called Macedon, and founder of one of the most revolutionary ancient war tactics called the phalanx formation. This made any Greek hoplite or Greek soldier that fought within a unit capable of performing a phalanx formation quite formidable and very hard to beat in battle. Long story short, Alexander had great mentorship. He had lions teaching him what to do. His father taught him how to use the phalanx formation. I'm going to say that one more time. Philip II taught Alexander how to use the phalanx formation, not how to perfect it. Alexander didn't only perfect it, but he used it in such a way that it enabled him to conquer the majority of the known world before he even hit his 30s. Today, everyone wants to be a boss. They're tired of working for a boss. Today, everyone wants to be a boss so that they can have other people working for them. I say this to those that strive so strong to be a boss. What is a boss to a king? Alexander didn't have the best role model as a father. First of all, he grew up hearing from his mother that this wasn't his actual father. Alexander liked him, but he was told by his mother time and time again that this was not his actual father. Alexander was taught by the wisest philosopher throughout ancient Greece. His name was Aristotle. And Aristotle taught Alexander how to use wisdom, not just in battle, but in life. In that day, whoever had the army, whoever had the bronze, had the gold. His father was running a kingdom and was just trying to get by. His mother didn't like his father and was telling him to disown his father. He was given mentorship from a philosopher, not a king, not someone to show him how to take this kingdom and to duplicate it, to take it to the next level. He learned wisdom. So how did Alexander gain the drive to do what he did? He was fascinated with the lion. He was fascinated with the lion. They say his helmet was a bronze forged lion. His helmet was the head of a lion out of bronze. So this means failure to a fatherless home. Not so. Alexander built an empire off of Animal Planet alone. Verse 6. Money is the new soul. Well, I guess that works, since Nixon turned it into used gold. Money is the new soul. Well, I guess that works, since Nixon turned it into used gold. What does this mean? Well, we already know what people are willing to do for money. Kill their best friend, sell their children, on and on. But very few understand how money works. And if the majority of people that works for money, that strive to gain more money, understood how it works, then they probably wouldn't work so hard for it. It would probably come to them much easier. In a nutshell, money is ran by a banking system. The money that is in a bank is not their money. It is the money of the government. And it is only money borrowed by the government. Banks are told by the government to give people money. Try having that mentality when you go into a bank to ask for a loan. And they say at this current rate that they have to dish the money out 20 times over. That means that if this bank does not dish out the money 20 times over, they will either be shut down, they'll have to go into default, or they will have tremendous amounts of debt. And that means that they will have to borrow tremendous amounts of money that they don't have. in order to just stay running. This happened when President Nixon took the value of the dollar away. See, before Nixon, the dollar had control because it was considered a piece of gold, literally. It was a piece of paper, but it represented a piece of gold. That means that if gold went scarce within the world, the value of money would go scarce. But guess what? Because of Nixon, money has no control now. It has no real value. So that means that a man can tell you what the value of money is. That means that men can tell you what the value of money is. And that allows them to dish out money based on promised distributions, which we call debt. That's really how money works. Money is the new soul. Well, I guess that works since Nixon turned it into used gold. Verse 7. A bank robber is a taker with a used soul, stealing from a place that wants to give you money for a Christmas bonus and used gold. A bank robber is a taker with a used soul, stealing from a place that wants to give you money for a Christmas bonus and used gold. Now, I don't mean to offend any bankers by saying that you wear used gold, but this is true. They say the most deals, the most loans at all banks are dished out within the last 90 days of the year. Why? Because they want that Christmas bonus. If you're into getting money, if you're ready to do everything for money, or if you think you're ready to do anything for money, check out Dan Pena, one of my mentors. One of his goals is to have 1 million billionaires under him. And I know that he can do it. He might be closer to it than he thinks. But a bank robber, that's a taker, someone that has what it takes, but they have no hope. They have a used soul. They have no hope. They have more hope in ordering military-grade hardware, setting up a front, using stolen vehicles or vehicles leased out of random people's names, purchasing for things out of other people's credit cards, holding this bank up, holding hostages, packing up all of the money and leaving safely. This person, these people have more hope in achieving this than simply putting on a suit and a tie and negotiating how they could get money from an institution that is told by the government to give you money. That's a person with no hope, a person with no soul. A bank robber is a taker with a used soul, stealing from a place that wants to give you money for a Christmas bonus and used gold. Verse 8. Many leave room for error. Well, it's not in here. While most need to listen to their girl, mine gets around me and speculates on why it keeps getting hot in here. Many leave room for error. Well, it's not in here. While most need to listen to their girl, mine gets around me and speculates on why it keeps getting hot in here. Why is that? Why is it that most men today need to listen to their girl, need to listen to their women more than ever? Why is it that there's certain men that have a different effect around women? Why is it that there used to be a time where a marriage would get stronger as time went by, not weaker? Because people used to know what they were doing. People used to know what they were doing. Today, when a couple gets married, they don't know that they are making vows to each other to die for each other. Today, when a couple have sexual intercourse, they don't know that they are making a covenant to each other, saying blood in, blood out. It's a blood covenant. Today, when someone sets up a business, they don't know why they have to sign their last name on every piece of paper. They don't understand that this business represents how they will be remembered in this world for the rest of eternity. You can't take that away from anybody. People don't know what they're doing. When I get around a woman, she could tell by how I carry myself that I know what I'm doing. When a young lady sees me and she asks me for help, she knows that if I give her my word, I will burn in daylight to do it. That's one great reason why I don't give my word to people that don't keep their word. I beckon you to do the same. It is not wise for people to give their word to people that do not keep their word. It is things like this that form guarantees. Things like this that keeps people from running into error whenever they plan to take something, whenever they plan to become a taker in life. Many leave room for error. Well, it's not in here. While most need to listen to their girl, mine gets around me and speculates on why it keeps getting hot in here. Verse 9. The spirit God gave us is not of fear, and we wonder why it's so hard to stay rich while feeling that poverty is near. The spirit God gave us is not of fear, and we wonder why it's so hard to stay rich while feeling that poverty is near. For those that know scripture, God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Now it's interesting understanding this, how so many people believe that they could do certain things without God. You can get by without God, but you're not going to move on without God. Period. There's no other way to live life. It's funny to watch. It's sad, but it's funny to watch. Many people become successful out of fear. They're tormented on their way to the top. And they start a business out of torment. So when people sign up for this business, they're tormented to keep their jobs at this business. When you understand how many billionaires went bankrupt, how many millionaires had to go broke before they kept a stable wage, it could make you reconsider striving for riches. Knowledge of this has made many say, this isn't for me. Why? Because they gain the riches out of fear in the first place. So they make decisions out of fear, making that thing that they fear come to pass. What you fear is near. That's why you can't live out of fear. You got to have God. And God is the only one that gives true peace. I've covered this in other studies, but if you are a millionaire and your numbers are in the tens of millions, but your bills are in the tens of millions, you're poor. I don't care what kind of car you drive. I don't care what kind of house you have. If your money comes in by the tens of millions and your bills come in by the tens of millions, you are poor. Why do so many strive for riches, thinking that riches alone is the answer? And they end up in this same predicament time and time again. Why? Fear. They're afraid. Many are so certain that fear is the only way to do it. That's because they're too lazy to give God a chance. Don't wait until you get riches to give him a chance. Give him a chance now and let him show you how to get riches. Not let some pastor behind a pulpit that doesn't live according to what he says tell you how to get riches. No, let God himself tell you how to get riches. And of course, I don't speak about all pastors when I say that, but we have to be clear about what we're dealing with here. The Spirit of God gave us is not of fear, and we wonder why it's so hard to stay rich while feeling that poverty is near. Verse 10. Self-esteem can't come from opulence. The Crusaders could tell you, your own beliefs is really the only opulence. Self-esteem can't come from opulence. The Crusaders could tell you, your own beliefs is really the only opulence. This world, this life, does not have a retry button. Reincarnation is a partial truth. Reincarnation actually exists. But what the deities that have revealed this belief to the monks of old and the hermits of old and the priests of old about reincarnation is a small portion of the truth. It's a small part of reality. Partial reality is not real. Partial truth is not the truth. Something like reality has to be complete in order for it to be real. And something like the truth has to be complete in order for it to be truth. What those deities did not reveal to man is that reincarnation is the result of the fall of those deities. And that those deities and people that have messed up are awaiting a judgment to find out where they will be for eternity. And they have been here on the earth possessing different beings for all of this time. And when you consider how many deities there are, possession is a very rare thing. Very rare. See? But people's beliefs is the main issue. People's beliefs about their self is the main issue. And thinking that someone can become confident because they have nice things is no wiser than those that believe in incarnation. Sweet people, nice people, good hearts, but deceived. And at the end of the day, we're not judged for how nice our hearts are. We're judged for our knowledge of the truth and how we act accordingly. Because if you have it in your heart to be good, to do good, then you will do what it takes to get the truth. That's what makes you good. And you fill your mind with so much truth that you can't help but to have it in your heart and to do it. Self-esteem can't come from opulence. The Crusaders could tell you your own beliefs is really the only op you'll lands. Verse 11. Polis kratos, the power and grip of the polis lands, could not Hellenize until Socrates gave soldiers a poet's gland. Polis kratos, the power and grip of the polis lands, could not Hellenize until Socrates gave soldiers a poet's gland. We can question if these things really happened, but there are things that are obvious, like the fact that we still use Roman numerals today. They came from the Greek. The reason why we still use Greek root terms in our languages today, everyone used to speak Greek. This was the result of Hellenization, when Greece took over the world. And this happened through Alexander the Great. Polis kratos is the Greek term that we use today for politics. Politics is powerful. Politics is useful. But in ancient Greece, it was not strong enough to conquer anything. Politics is idle. You can't conquer with politics alone. It took a philosopher by the name of Socrates to lay his life down for a belief that if politicians stop setting up wars, and if the people stop fighting amongst each other and simply discussed matters like men, then they could get something done. And we see this as a perfect example in the life of Alexander the Great. Like we've covered, his father was a king and a vicious military general. And one of his greatest mentors was a offshoot of a poet. He was a philosopher. The philosophers were off branches from the ancient poets. So when you take that degree of wisdom and you put it with that degree of military fervor, you have yourself a great leader. What's military for us today? What's war for us today? Money. Money is the new bronze. Polis kratos, the power and grip of the polis lands, could not Hellenize until Socrates gave soldiers a poet's gland. Verse 12. Feeding the mind is more important than the stomach. The stomach may give life, but the brain dead can't give life to a woman. Feeding the mind is more important than the stomach. The stomach may give life, but the brain dead can't give life to a woman. There is a grave difference, a vast difference between impregnating a woman and giving life to a woman. There was a man by the name of Dr. Sebi that have successfully explained to the world why people are insane the second they are born. Whatever you feed yourself is whatever you can give to another. So if someone's sperm cells comes from a body of adulterated foods, then they are giving adulterated life for that woman to give birth to. And we wonder why our women want to kill our babies so much. We wonder why we want to kill our babies so much. We influence them to have abortions, and they influence us to allow them to have abortions, to allow laws that commends it. There are a lot of adult boys today. They look like men, but when you look at the character, when you look past the beard, when you look past the muscular integrity, it doesn't matter how much you can bench press, you realize that you are dealing with a little boy that is old enough to impregnate a woman. When a child finds out that their father was a little boy their whole life, a adult boy their whole life, it's devastating. Devastating. Feeding the mind is more important than the stomach. The stomach may give life, but the brain dead can't give life to a woman. Verse 13. If incarnation was true, I must have been a shepherd in my past life. The way I keep my fangs sharp for the foxes to keep my staff right. If incarnation was true, I must have been a shepherd in my past life. The way I keep my fangs sharp for the foxes to keep my staff right. There are 3 kinds of people in this world. If you know it, you can say it with me. There's wolves, there's sheep, and there's sheepdogs. Only 3. There's no in between. The wolves are strong. And in most cases, wolves are stronger than the sheepdog. As a matter of fact, from time to time, wolves travel in packs. Or I believe the most accurate term is pucks. So wolves can easily overpower a sheepdog, a shepherd. But the sheep and the sheepdogs are on the same team. And what allows the sheepdog to protect the sheep is the fact that he has something to fight for. He has someone to fight for. Life has not been lived until someone finds someone to fight for. This is what taking is all about. You don't take for you. You take for others. And you don't take by way of stealing. You take by way of earning. That's a real taker. There are a lot of people that have been perverted in their minds to believe that the only way you could take something is to somehow, some way, by manipulation, by false persuasion, steal it from someone. This is why so many marketers are liars today, because they are stealing from people and they believe that if they cover it up better, if they use big words, 3, 5, 6, 7, 20 syllable words, that we won't be able to tell that they are stealing from us. And because in many cases we are weak, we give in. No, we can't give in. We have to choose. Are we going to be sheep, wolves, or sheepdogs? There's a right way to do everything. In most cases, it is the original way to do everything. This is why people want to do things a new way. People want to find a new way to do everything. Why? Because they don't trust the old way. They're too lazy. They aren't real people to the core. They're weak. And they believe that the way to succeed in life is to prey on the weak. When you get a chance, research the history behind the Ponzi scheme. Look up Charles Ponzi, the founder of the Ponzi scheme. It is a scheme, and it is legal today. Why? Because it is normal for people to steal from each other. We need protectors. We need sheepdogs. If incarnation was true, I must have been a shepherd in my past life, the way I keep my fangs sharp for the foxes to keep my staff right. Verse 14. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But if I don't stand on my word, then what could I do for you? An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But if I don't stand on my word, then what could I do for you? What does it mean today for someone to stand on their word? Does this mean for someone to stand on their word as long as it benefits them? Does it mean for someone to stand on their word until that other person fails to stand on their word? People know that they are being lied to some way, somehow, walking into a deal today. Everyone, they know it. They're being lied to. So we have contracts, which are nothing but insurance for trickery. That's why so many businesses have so many contracts, to protect themselves from all of the possible forms of trickery. So what happens? A new trick comes out of the blue. If anyone understands that term on the streets, you know exactly where I'm getting at. Someone that makes an agreement with you, reads the agreement, finds out what is not covered in the agreement, and use it against you. That's business today. That's what you have to deal with if you are a taker today. And if you listen to anyone aside from the word of God, you will be walking into a life where this is what you will have to do in order to take. This has repercussions because you can only do this for so long until someone finds you out, until someone finds out your colleagues, until someone finds out the colleagues of your colleagues. It may take years, but someone will find out. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But if I don't stand on my word, then what could I do for you? Verse 15. Tricking is a way of life, but there's over 100 ways to catch AIDS too. I won't even allow my kids to ride a public bike. Tricking is a way of life, but there's over 100 ways to catch AIDS too. I won't even allow my kids to ride a public bike. Now, as comical as this is very prolific. I have to throw some humor in this. I had to. Because we're dealing with things that cause us to examine ourselves, to analyze ourselves. With this wisdom, you can analyze people that you'll meet for the next 50 years and deal with them differently. Deal with them in a way that would set you up for success. But tricking is a way of life. Trickery, selling your body, selling your soul, selling your mind, selling your skills, selling your credentials, and deceiving people to sell the same. You sell a little bit of your soul for a lot more of someone else's wealth in return. In your mind, you've made $1 million profit off of that deal. But no one calculates the soul deduction. No one calculates on paper how much that took of your soul. I guarantee you, a lot of these millionaires, a lot of these billionaires, on paper they're rich. On spiritual paper, they are dead broke. They are in debt. No one wants to be in debt spiritually. Now, there's a difference between having debt and being in debt. Spiritually speaking, that's a bad deal. God is not a credit union. And I just found out recently, a lot of the experts don't believe that God is real. And this is the reason why they do what they do, as if they're not going to be judged eventually. As smart as they are, as often as they deal with spiritual atoms, as much as they have learned about energy, which is a spiritual thing, they don't believe in spiritual things. And it's no wonder why they put out food in mass amounts that literally have toxins in them. And they sleep like babies because they think that there is no God, and they most certainly believe that there is no God that will judge them. To each their own. Trickery is a way of life, but there's over 100 ways to catch AIDS too. I won't even allow my kids to ride a public bike. AIDS was invented, by the way. I digress. Verse 16. The only thing I won't take is a life, because sleep's the cousin of death, and procrastination is the concubine to suicide. The only thing I won't take is a life, because sleep's the cousin of death, and procrastination is the concubine to suicide. We can't get lazy. Laziness is wickedness. Jesus gave a remarkable parable, a beautiful parable about 3 men with 3 specific investments to their names. 2 of them did what it took to multiply the investment, and they gave the initial investor into them his cutback. In the business world, this is called consignment. When you give someone something in hopes that they will come through on their promise to bring you a return. The third person in this parable, they missed the whole point of the investment. They were too scared of the person that gave them the investment. And out of that fear, they acted and made the fear come to pass. What was the fear? That the initial investor would get mad if the investment was lost, and that this initial investor would do something mean to this person if they did not bring their investment back. But they missed the whole point. The whole point was to take the investment and multiply it and then bring back a cut to the initial investor. God gave us life. How are we going to multiply life for him? God gave us love. How are we going to multiply love to give back to him? God gave us peace. How are we going to multiply peace to give back to him? He gave us skills, talents, arts, gifts, dreams. How are we going to multiply these things? How are we going to take for God and give it back to him? How? This is the only way to live life. This is the only way to take. The only thing I won't take is a life, because sleep is the cousin of death and procrastination is the concubine to suicide.